So I saw this last night everywhere, and I understand why it's happening. And it very, very well could be the case. Like, he does not look the same in terms of willingness to run, the twitch when he does run, the explosiveness when he leaves the pocket, even as a passer, whether not just accuracy or like working back from the result, but mechanically, he's falling away from throws. Is he doing that to protect his body from oncoming defenders? I was watching the game back on the train with Darius, and we kept saying, like, why isn't he moving in the pocket like he did? Like, even on the plays where he's pressured, there's one defender that's bearing down on him. And a month ago, 6 weeks ago, he just kind of sidesteps that guy and buys himself a little more time, that natural pocket movement. A lot of those things are not happening like they were a month ago. So I think what a lot of people have decided is, well, it's the rib. And then when I watched the broadcast today, we were at the game, so we didn't see this. I didn't notice it. But when you watch the game, how many times did they show him getting his rib wrapped? Or some type of, they'd go down to Kaylee Hartung, and she's like, yeah, Jayden Daniels is bleeding from the finger. And, oh, by the way, his rib has a package that just got delivered, and someone taped it onto him. And it's like, well, if there's nothing wrong with his rib, why are they constantly working on it on the sideline?
Yeah, and then last night I think he had that cut on his hand that they glued together. So, that's the normal wear and tear of the NFL. And I couldn't handle it, certainly. But, these guys are obviously built different.
You stood up yesterday and hurt your knee.
I did. And this is not even a joke. It's not right. I had to step over cords that were on the ground. That's the end of the story, and I hurt my knee. It's not right, and I need to go to the doctor.
We were driving back from the bar yesterday to the hotel, and Danny's like, hey, GP, I'm really serious about my knee. And I was like, no way, dude. Like, what do you mean? He's like,
they're like, oh, you're making ha-ha. Like, you're twisted because you're old.
Like,
you're fine.
And then we're like walking up and down the steps at the stadium, and Danny's like really struggling. And I'm like, this isn't from the thing at the bar when you just stood up, right? He's like, totally is.
It totally is. First of all, it's a good knee. I didn't know you could do that. That's annoying. Second of all, it was going downstairs. Like, it hurt. Like, it's whatever the front thing is. I don't know if it's a patella, if it's a medial collateral. I don't know, but it's so messed up.
Jayden wasn't the only one not 100% yet.
Yeah, and I still did everything I could to win the game.
Through it. But here's my issue with this.
Go ahead.
Is, I guess, like, they're playing better defenses. That is part of why this is happening.
Of course, it's no one explanation. Everybody wants to make it one is wrong.
This is not solely Jayden Daniels' rib is not right thing. The Cliff Kingsbury second half of the season regression has to be talked about.
Yes.
I don't know if this is happening now, but it happened every year in Arizona. There aren't as many wide open receivers. We were at the game. We were watching. The All-22 will be available in short order for all of the scouts that want their NFL Game Pass subscriptions. You can check that out. I'm not saying there's never open receivers, but there's a little bit of everything here. But he just didn't play that well. Now, do I think his rib is bothering him? Of course. But if his rib was a problem, like a real legitimate problem, would they be running him on quarterback draws? We're a month removed. No one said his rib was bothering him against the Bears when he played pretty well, threw for a career-high 320. The Hail Mary where he's torquing his body, throwing it 60 yards in the air. Rib was fine. That was a month ago or whatever that was. I don't remember when he had 2 touchdowns, no picks, and the offense hummed against the Giants and looked pretty good, and he made the unbelievable touchdown throw before the half to Terry McLaurin. I don't remember that day that the rib was a problem, but the rib was a little bit of an issue against the Steelers, and then it was a big issue last night. So I'm just not completely sold on that. I do think it's a thing, but in my pie of what's going on offensively, it's not as big a sliver as some other things.
So the thing, I think there's nuance to it, and people are going to hear this incorrectly. I'm not comparing myself to Jayden Daniels. Just trying to offer an example. My senior year, I was hit on this weird bone in my wrist with a fastball. Deep bone bruise. Wasn't broken, but it hurt, and it bothered me for about 2 weeks. The subsequent 2 weeks, I didn't hit very well. And then the 2.5 weeks after that, I hit even worse. Because what I was doing before I even realized it was compensating for this injury that I had. It was nagging and a pain in the butt. My swing got all fouled up. I wasn't staying on the ball. I hit terribly for basically a month plus because of something that only kept me out of the game for 2 days. This is what's happening, in my opinion. He was guarding and protecting the ribs. So the throw against Cincinnati, the Terry McLaurin, that is ungodly, that 10% completion percentage throw to win the game, basically, into the corner of the end zone, he got a shot right in the face, basically, from it because he stepped in, stood his ground, and did that. You said it last night, or you said it just now. The spinning off, the fading away, the backing off of some of those throws. And again, this is the hardest thing to do in sports, right? Is play quarterback and just say, yep, stand in there. Take a shot from a 260-pound dude running a 4.4. But that's the gig. You saw it on that most important one. The best example of this was that Noah Brown kind of deep crosser where Brown's got a step, and that's either a huge gain or a touchdown if it's thrown well, right? Just because the space and the momentum, it falls way short and probably could have been intercepted. You look back at that, he's backtracking already, and he's spinning off and falling away on that throw. That, to me, is a byproduct and a bad habit that came from nursing this injury.
That's very possible.
If it's as you already said, I understand it's not going to keep him out of the lineup, but if it's also nothing, why are we wrapping it every time? Why is it always treatment? There's something going on. It's not going to keep him out. It shouldn't. But there's a difference between he's physically healthy enough to do it and then maybe some of these bad habits that he's picked up. I think this 10-day break could not come at a better time for him, both to heal up and then kind of get back in the lab, be able to see some of these things. Oh my gosh, I'm fading away that badly. Probably doesn't realize it's happening. I think you can get right back on track with some of these throws that I think he's kind of slipped mechanically because he's compensating.
Yeah, it reminds me of the conversation about Robert Griffin we used to have, where it's like, is he playing hurt or not? The definition of like injury versus hurt versus pain. Like, should he be on the field? Should he not be on the field? He is perfectly capable of playing.
Absolutely.
As we have seen. You can't even tell a difference with how he moves or, frankly, how he throws the football. I remember before the Bears game, so that whole week after the Carolina game, when we were doing shows saying, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Everyone is glued to his pregame warm-up. He comes out. He does his basketball bit. He's running around, and he starts throwing the ball. Same torque, same kind of whip, same release. He's rotating his hips. Everything looks kind of normal, right? Game's going to be different. But we saw it in the game. I thought at the end of the first half against the Bears when they didn't throw the Hail Mary, if you remember, they had a chance at midfield to let one rip, and they didn't. And in the press box, we're talking about this, and we came to the conclusion, well, maybe they don't think he has the ability to, like, torque his whole body and launch the ball up into the air. Maybe they should have brought on Mariota to do it. Now, an hour and a half later, he threw the Hail Mary to win the game, and obviously he had no problem doing that. There was no pain, whatever. Last night, end of the first half, which, by the way, this annoyed me. Do you guys remember that the last play of the first half from midfield, they handed the ball to Brian Robinson?
Do not understand that.
For like 4 yards. What was that?
Yeah, so the people that are just as a quick side, who ran and raved about, how do you not kick the field goal on that fourth down? Fine. That's mine.
Yes.
This is my, what are we doing
you did
in that
the hard
circumstance?
Part. You got the ball back with 20-some seconds, right? You get to midfield. You actually would have been in field goal range if De'Ami Brown doesn't drop the ball. Would have been a 58-yard field goal. But maybe better is that you have now a chance to throw the ball into the end zone and see if you can get your second Hail Mary in a calendar month. And I guess Dan Quinn decided there's just no way we can get a Hail Mary because, oh, wait, they can. I remember I watched it. Why did they do that? I've never seen a team at midfield hand the ball off to a running back. That defies logic to me, to give up when you are in striking distance of the end zone, unless, again, you don't think he can throw it to the end zone. We know that's not the case. We've seen him throw deep several times since the injury. But I think you're right. I think there are some bad habits mechanically, maybe that come from the rib being on his mind. I also don't know. He doesn't seem to be wearing anything on the field different than what he did before. And Quinn's on record publicly saying they were not going to have him wear any type of flak jacket or guard or anything. But I was thinking maybe he could be wearing something that changes, like a basketball player wearing a mask or something. But we haven't seen that. I don't think he's wearing anything. So I just think a lot of things are happening. But what we cannot excuse or pretend not to acknowledge is they've played the two best defenses they're going to play.
Another huge part of it.
In the last calendar week.
Yep.
It's harder to move the ball and score 30 points against Philly than it is Carolina or Pittsburgh. And there's a Cliff Kingsbury conversation therein that we'll have. Hopefully they just get right and they go pound the Cowboys, who are terrible, and then they shove it on the Titans, who are not good either. But this is definitely going to be one of the bigger stories of the week ahead. I think there's no doubt about that.
Without question, because this is – everybody always wants to say, is it this one thing? And the answer is no. People hate that when there's multiple answers, multiple reasons, multiple ingredients into the dish, or, big slivers of the pie. But that's what's happening. A number of things are going on here. I think you've touched on all three. The one I would add is against really good defenses, which is 100% who they've played over the last 5 days, is maybe they're a player or two short here or there. Maybe, like a guy like Marshawn Lattimore, I think really would have helped last night in some of those moments. They need a couple more dudes like that. That's why they went and got one, right? But you look at how they're built. There's a huge amount of cap space, powder dry, they left for this year, and they've got $100 million for next year. If they had maxed out this year and we're already pretty much pot committed for next year, I'd go, right? They didn't do a great job, but it's like, no, they got flexibility to add to this group, and adding they will, right? I think that's also a huge part of it, where you can get away with it against a Cleveland team that's all but quit, or Carolina, who's horrendous, right? You don't need anything. In those kind of matchups, you probably need one more dude, and he's not coming. There's nobody here that can do that, but that's also kind of part of the equation to me. So that's probably a small ingredient, but I think that's part of the pie.
Put it in the stew. I'm fine with that. One other thing I want to talk about Daniels wise, and this is very specific to Daniels, not the offensive structure or whatever, but he has had his 2 least productive rushing performances in these 2 games. So he ran for 5 yards against Pittsburgh, and then 18 yards last night against the Eagles, his 2 lowest totals of the year. 23 yards over 2 games. If you take any other 2 games sample this year, the lowest 2-game stretch he had of rushing yards was 72 yards.
Mm-hmm.
That happened when he missed 3 of the 8 quarters in that 2-game sample against Carolina. Meaning, in 1 quarter and in the 4 quarters before, he had 72 rushing yards, the lowest in a 2-game span. In these 2 games, he had 23. What did all of the analysts that we had on at the beginning of the year say? This guy can make plays from the pocket. He can throw. He's a dynamic runner, incredible dual threat. But the one thing they kept saying was, you've got to try to keep him in the pocket. That's how you take away the superpower, the extending of the plays, the creativity outside the pocket. We saw it with Jalen Hurts last night.
Yes.
When Jalen Hurts was in the pocket, he's just he's a different guy. I'll play that guy every single day of the week, and I'll beat him most of the time. But when he starts getting out of the pocket, and now all of a sudden A.J. Brown is wiggling in the secondary and finding a little soft spot, it's a different world. And the last 2 teams have kept him in the pocket. And that's how you beat this team right now. Daniels is a very capable passer. People hear that and they act like I'm saying all the guy does is run. That's not the case. Mm-hmm. But when you keep him where you want him, seeing the field from his drop in his plant area, just standing in the tackle box, restrictive area, he's just not going to be as effective. And the last 2 teams have done that better.
So again, I think that's part of it. Then it also goes back to Kingsbury and adjustments or lack thereof. If you keep him in the pocket like you did last night, now again, I'm not watching the all 22. I'm sitting right next to where you were sitting, but it's not like a bunch of dudes are running free. You know what I mean? So like when you're keeping him in the pocket with 4, covering with 7, all of a sudden, you know what's available? The swing pass, check down to Eckler, another check down to Eckler. The check down to Eckler's open. Watch for the check down to Eckler. Nothing is happening in the middle of the field, down the field, et cetera, like it was a couple weeks ago, where if you said, keep him in the pocket, fill in the blank team that's not that good, good luck with that. You got a guy probably with momentum that's going to run and take this little 10-yard hitch and go for 30.
Yeah.
That wasn't available to me last night. Now, again,
not as often.
Yeah, someone from the all-22 could tell you, no, he missed this, that, and the other. Again, I'm watching from the side, but I'm trying to watch the play unfold.
There's definitely less wide open receivers. That was the name of the game in the early part of the year.
Yeah.
He's just throwing to open dudes all over the place. Mm-hmm. Everything highlight you think of for the most part, you're throwing to a guy somewhere who's got no one around him, right? Other than some of the really amazing throws he made in the Cincinnati game and otherwise to Terry. But he also just wasn't seeing it. Like they did something to fluster him where he was not getting the ball out as fast, even on the checkdowns. It's not like it was quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. It was, right.
Nothing was happening in a fluid way, it didn't feel like. He just wasn't comfortable, really, from start to finish. Kevin's in Arlington on Grant and Danny. Kevin, who gets your game ball? Who gets your gasser, buddy?
I'll give that to you in a second, but just to continue what you're saying, the one time we finally, other than the touchdown drive in the first half, got it going again was when we went to tempo and we weren't letting them substitute, and we get it all the way down to it, close to the red zone. We get 9 yards on first down, and then the next 3 plays are my gasser. I'll talk about that after the game ball. The big picture, here's the thing. It's talent, and let's be positive. Last year in Philly, what do you have? You have A.J. Brown schooling Forbes, schooling Rivera. Last night, you have Sanders still hanging with Brown, Quinn hanging with the best team in the NFC. People keep saying Detroit. They got Goff, okay? No, Philadelphia, 1-53, is the best team in the NFL, and Baltimore's going to find that out. Because you know what? Saquon's better than Henry. But, so game ball, there's Mikey Sanders still, and getting us to where we're talking about the playoffs a couple weeks before Thanksgiving. Gasser, what were they doing in that 3-play sequence? I usually don't go down to the minutia of play calls, but for God's sake, if you get stuffed as we did on second down, third down, aren't you going to say, you know what, Jayden Daniels is our guy. We rode him all year. Put it in his hands. And if he can't get it on third, maybe he can get it on fourth. Instead, we run it. You think the Bengals take it out of Joe Burrow's hands? I don't think so. And that's to your point earlier, Grant, about pocket passing versus dual threat. But you know what? You got to let him take shots. I don't know what the hell we were doing on that 3-play sequence, and it flipped the game. Nobody can convince me otherwise. That cost us the game because we threw up on ourselves.
Well, appreciate you, buddy. I mean, the game changed at that moment unequivocally. There's just no denying that. I get that sequence is maddening. I think I'm in the minority. I was more annoyed by the sequence at the end of the game, where with 3 minutes to go, they're at the 32-yard line, and on 52 seconds down to the 2-minute warning, they ran twice, and those were the only 2 plays. They ran the ball 2 times in a row, still didn't get a first down, and let 52 seconds elapse. You're down 16. You're not down 19. If you score and get a 2-point conversion, you can still get the ball back and have a chance to win the football game. At least before, they could explain away, well, the reason we did that was we needed a foot. We thought Robinson would get it. Then we didn't get it, so we thought Robinson would get the 1.5 feet. This time, there's no explanation.
No.
Al Michaels had no idea that it was a 16-point game. He's 90 and should be, not calling the game at this point. He has no energy. Kirk Herbstreit didn't know what was going on. I'm not paying him $12 million or whatever to know what's going on. Why were they acting like the game was over with 3 minutes to go? I don't understand that.
Yeah, me neither. The second run to get you to the 2-minute warning, I'm going, okay, they were going to get the 2-minute warning anyhow by hook or by crook, right? So fine. But the first one I didn't understand either. You see, does that make any sense? Like after you called the first one, which I'm going, no, wrong. Talking about the 2 runs. The second run, you look up at the clock, you go, you probably wouldn't be able to complete a pass inbounds, then get back and get another playoff or spike it or whatever before the 2-minute warning. That was going to get to the 2-minute warning anyhow. So the second run, I guess, made a little bit more sense to me. But the first one reflected what I think your larger point, which still stands, is where's my urgency? I don't have it. Where is it? Like, be urgent, be quick, hurry up. Win, lose, or draw, hurry up right there to even give yourself a shot.